What the Mum podcast. My name is Maria Newman and I will be your host. Every mum to be knows that as soon as she becomes a mum, her world will change forever. Everyone is keen to give you advice based on their own experiences. Other mums delight in sharing their horror stories so that new mums are better prepared for what might happen. The lack of sleep, feeling exhausted most of the time, living in bodies with even more wobbly bits and never having any privacy. But everyone's story is unique. Everyone's experience is personal. On this podcast, I will be sharing real stories told by mums like you and I about their experience of motherhood and how life changes when you become a mum. This podcast is about showing you that you're not alone. We may not be in the same boat, but we are experiencing a similar storm. I hope these stories will inspire you to do what you want, be who you want to be. Anything is possible if you really want it and if it is really important to you. If you want to find out more about me and who I am, check out my website, mummyinabreak.co.uk. However, for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast episode. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. During this podcast series, I will be interviewing 6 awesome women who will be sharing with us their mum stories. My guest today is Kaddy, who is the founder and director at Elijah's Hope. But she's also a mum who has a very inspirational story. She has faced and overcome many challenges throughout her life, and I know that her story will motivate you to be more courageous and not take no for an answer. Thanks, Kaddy, for joining me today.
Welcome, you're welcome.
So, Kaddy, before we dive into talking about your mum's story and the challenges that you have overcome, tell us a bit about yourself so that we can get to know Kaddy as an individual.
So, I am 54 years of age. I'm a single mother to an adorable young man called Elijah, who is 16. I consider myself to be a business entrepreneur as well. I love food. I love food, talk about food, dream about food. Love 5-star, love kind of, not, obviously food is a necessity to us all, but I go that extra mile where I kind of, not only do I eat it and enjoy it, but I then kind of, it stays within my memory for probably a good couple of days. And I like fine dining, in terms of, when I talk about food, I'm not talking, go to your local fish and chip shop. I'm talking restaurant, Italian, French, well, all the kind of nationalities around the world in terms of food. I would say I'm an avid researcher. I love watching documentaries. I love the other thing I really love is hotels. I love staying in 4 to 5-star class of hotels. I am an avid Outlander fan. Love it. I'm a real hopeless. Well, no, I'm not going to say hopeless. I am a real romantic. I love any film that's got the slightest relationship, the theme of the film or the series that has a kind of romantic relationship theme to it. I'm there. In fact, last night I was watching snippets of Rookie, which is an American police drama, but it's kind of based around this man and this woman. And yeah, I was kind of thinking, all right, I've got to get into Rookie now because Outlander is currently being filmed, so that's off the airways. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Oh, we have many common interests, especially food. I'm with you when it comes to eating it, cooking it, talking about it. I think my world actually revolves around food.
Absolutely.
So you and I, we had a bit of a catch up a little while ago, and I was super inspired by your story. And you have faced so many challenges throughout your life, and it would be easy for, I'm going to say, the average person just to give up and say, this is all far too difficult. So first of all, tell us about the challenges that you have faced. And then I want you to tell us what what was it that kept you motivated to keep going?
I guess from a I guess from a young age, I've always had to go the extra mile, if that's the right word to use. So when I was born, I obviously, the condition that both me and Elijah have is called Apert syndrome, which is a rare disease, affects 1 in 16,000 births. So when I was born, back in 1968, my mother, who is, my heritage, I'm British by nationality, born in Birmingham, so you might hear that a little bit of a Brummy twang. But when I was born to my mum, who was 22 at the time, over here, I don't know how long she was over here for, but 54 years ago, when I think about it now, 54 years ago, there probably support for children, babies with just any kind of health or disability probably was non-existent. So I think the prospect of my mother bringing up a child with a physical disability, and I was also labelled, back in those days, it was severely retarded. Now we use the word severe learning disabilities. So she had me for a year, and then I guess the pressure and the stress of bringing up a child with both of those things was too much for her, so I got abandoned, essentially, and as a result of the severe learning disability label, if you like, I was then placed in a hospital, and then I moved to a residential home for children with profound learning disabilities. And as I was obviously growing up, they soon discovered that mentally I was of quite sound mind. So so I guess what I'm saying is, so at the age of 6 or 7, I was doing things like it was dormitory style accommodation. So I was getting the other children up. I was getting them washed, and they were helping them get dressed. So the day staff would come in and go, "Oh, we haven't got much to do." And I was doing that, at 6 or 7. You're still a child at 6 or 7. But I guess you could say, not consciously, but I was clearly demonstrating that mentally, I was of sound. I like use the word sound mind as opposed to normal, I guess. So, and then obviously as I grew up, I guess I experienced, I guess as I was growing up, being in residential care is good in the sense that you get a roof over your head and you get food, clothes on your back, and you get food in your stomach. But in terms of giving you identity and security and love, which as human beings we all need and want, I think those were kind of lacking. So in my late teens, I strived for relationship, friendship, a sense of belonging, and often found them in the wrong places, let's just say. So yeah, so I think that kind of resilience and determination and sense of having to strive for things has been within me from a very early age.
And so like us typically, like I say us typically, so I had a mum and dad, and I would say a lot of my qualities of resilience and being determined and going after what I really wanted, I saw in action through my parents. But did you have anybody in your life who was consistent enough to be a role model for you?
No.
So you are who you are today because of you.
Yeah.
And that in itself demonstrates great resilience. So let's fast forward a little bit. You've been in the residential homes. Then what happens when, that will naturally come to an end, where the state say, well, you need to go out there and fend for yourself now, Kaddy?
So being the headstrong woman that I was, still am, I basically said to myself, I am ready for independence. So you kind of leave residential care, you go into like a hostel, which what I say is that the purpose of moving into a hostel when you're like 16 is to prepare you for independence. What the problem when you're headstrong is you think you know it all already. So I moved into this hostel going, I know it all. And I wanted to get out of this hostel quick. I think I must have been there about a year. And I said I was homeless when I wasn't. Ended up in a council flat because I said I was homeless, 4th floor, high rise, and discovered that I was so not ready for independence and certainly did not have the skills to successfully be independent. Yes.
So what happened? What happened?
What happened? What happened was I run up debt. You know, I didn't pay my bills. I had sex. Whoever would have sex with me. In fact, I fell pregnant. So I was, what, 18, 17, 18, fell pregnant. And thought, I'm not responsible enough to have these babies, and had an abortion, which was a fairly traumatic, painful, and very lonely experience in itself. And then at the end of that 12 months, I decided it would be a good idea to throw a fire over the balcony, and consequently, I then got evicted. However, you know, out of every wise choice, something good comes out of that. And I moved into as a result of being evicted from this council property, I came across a charity called TOC H, which I don't know if still is active and around today, but TOC H was essentially a charity that conservation projects, taking children out, day trips, holidays. So I went and moved into a shared home in a place called Moseley in Birmingham. And kind of, I suppose I had to grow up a little. Well, I had to grow up, you know, essentially had to grow up a little bit, and kind of, instead of being like dossing and not having any purpose or meaning to my life, it kind of went, right, okay, let's get involved in the work of this charity. So I did, and actually I organised a week's outdoor bound activity for the very children I used to be, well, not, yeah, for the very residential children of the same home that I was in for a number of years. So that was quite exciting. I then, moving on from TOC H after a couple of years, I then moved into another shared house. I thought it would be a really good idea to use my landlord's identity to get a loan. Not a great idea at all. And consequently, I got turfed. Obviously, she didn't want me back into the home, naturally. And I then ended up in a police cell overnight, which is horrendous, because I had no fixed abode. I then went to court the following day and ended up in a women's bail hostel for a period of time. And from there, from the bail hostel, I then moved into another hostel owned and run by the Girls Friendly Society, and lived there for around 6 years. And during my time at this Girls Friendly Society hostel, became a born again Christian. Which, you know, when you haven't had and felt love in your life, and you're kind of striving. So I was very, you know, I want you to be my friend. You need me to be my friend. And I didn't verbalize that. You know, in my behaviour and the way I was, that's what I was communicating. And as a result of how I was back then, it kind of, I suffered a lot of rejection, because as human beings, you know, friendships and relationships develop naturally, and they can't be forced, and you can't be demanding in it either. So I yeah, so I made friends but lost them as quickly as I suppose you could say. So when I became a Christian, you know, God entered my life, and then I kind of just thought, oh, I could trust everybody, and kind of went through, you know, seasons of spilling my life out to anybody that would listen, to kind of go, maybe it didn't quite work like that. But actually, you know, that whole God experience and feeling his love was just amazing. And he's healed me from so many things, you know, and forgiven me for so much as well.
And so would you say becoming a born again Christian allowed you to have some stability in your life? Because obviously, you know, you up until that point, you'd been through a lot more than not just the average person, but people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Love, security, you know, a sense of identity as well, and loving myself. You know, you can't love out of an empty vessel. You know, I would disagree with anybody that says you can love out of an empty vessel, and you certainly can't truly love somebody else until you love yourself.
Which is a great point, obviously, to then say that, well, you did become a mum and you could love someone else.
Yeah. I mean, me becoming a mother, it didn't go down well with church at all, because you're not supposed to have sex outside. Let's have it right. You're not, as a born again Christian, sex outside of marriage is a complete no. However, I like sex, so I went and had sex. not with the plan of getting pregnant. I hasten to add, and it's interesting because I never wanted. I was a bit like, oh, I don't want children. Nah, not for me. However, when I fell pregnant, I mean, the father of my child response was, "Are you sure?" I can't remember looking at him going, "Really?" This is what happens when you have unprotected sex after 18 months of having sex. Anyway, although for me it wasn't just sex, it was, you know, I love this guy. But it was just, you know what? It was just, my mindset was, Christian, I could be judged by those around me, because obviously I was an active member of the church at the time. But I'm not going to be, I made the decision at that point, I was not going to be a miserable person as a result of getting pregnant. I acknowledged that it was sin. I acknowledged that it didn't come out of the best of circumstances, but this baby was going to be loved, it was going to be wanted, and I was ecstatically happy about the fact that I was having a baby. Because when my mother had me, she rejected me. And that followed. So my mother rejected me as a baby, and that followed me, that lived with me right up until I got healed from that the root of rejection. You know, God healed and removed that from my life. So when I felt pregnant, there was absolutely no way I was going to be miserable. There was absolutely no way I was going to reject my unborn child. I was like, I'm going to be happy about it. And I was really happy about it. And in fact, I would say the fact that I was really happy throughout the whole of my pregnancy. And I talked to Elijah, you know, I only wanted a boy. Don't ask me why I wanted a boy, I just wanted a boy. I named him before he came out. I spoke to him frequently and often and read him the riot act, because, you know, when you're not a parent, you kind of observe and watch how other parents parent their children. I was thinking, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. I used to say to him, my yes will be my no, my yes will be my yes, and my no will be my no, and there'll be nothing in between. I won't be picking you up every 5 minutes. I knew I was going to be one of these. I knew I was going to be one of these mothers that weren't going to coo him back to, you know, sleep if he woke up in the middle of the night. So he would wake up give him his bottle, and then I'd get him, then he would come into bed with me. It was just, I would say, being a mom has been the making of me. And having that, I remember when he was a day old, the day after he was born, and looking at him going, oh my God, I can now honestly say I've got a blood relative. I've got family that's blood related in my life. And that was really powerful. And it all, but what it also did, it was also gave me a bit of a better insight into what my mother must have, kind of some of the feelings that my mother must have felt at the time of giving birth to me.
So you've given birth to Elijah. Everything seems to be okay. He's obviously been diagnosed, but you've got the experience, you know what that's all about. Then what happens? Because obviously you're the founder of Elijah's Hope. So talk to me about what you experienced with Elijah and how things changed.
So he was born with Apert syndrome, which is the same condition I have, heart murmur, which is associated to Apert syndrome, and cleft and soft palate. At 18 months old, he became catastrophically brain damaged as a result of, as a result of poor care, let's just call it, and not being listened to and not being heard by the healthcare professionals. So as you can imagine, I've gone from a boy that ate orally, went to nursery. I was back at work part-time because I was a receptionist when I conceived Elijah. So I went back at about 9 months. I went back to work, and he went to nursery, and then suddenly he becomes a motionless child in bed. Can't sit up independently, can't talk, can't move, needs to be fed, liquid fed, and he loved his food. He absolutely loved his food. And, I could have quite easily have gone, that's it, he's brain injured, I've just got to put up with that. But I didn't. 3 months into the heartache, trauma, emotional roller coaster of kind of trying to come to terms with what had happened, I went, I want to fix, I used the word fix my boy. I want to offer him whatever rehabilitation support is out there to kind of enable him to recover as much as he's going to recover. I want to access. So I went on a journey of, I'm still on that journey to a degree, of really looking and searching for things. And I came across the Children's Trust, which is a charity based in Surrey that do brain injury rehabilitation. So we spent 10 months at Birmingham Children's Hospital. We spent about just over a year in Surrey. We then moved to North Somerset, and we moved to North Somerset. He was probably spent a good 2-3 years being really unstable from a health perspective. So we were in and out of hospital like a ping pong. And I set up Elijah's Hope back in August 2013, because at the time I was taken through a whole court process by social services who wanted to remove my child. And I was like, how many more parents? I made call it a mistake. Didn't listen to doctor, took him to a therapy appointment. His health declined, and social care started the whole court proceeding drama, as I call it. And very vocal am I. And, I say to any parent, if you're not vocal about your advocating and making sure that your child has the best support that there is going, then anyway, there's something wrong. So during 2013, I thought, well, how many more parents are out there who are what I call being persecuted by the system? So I set up Elijah's Hope to kind of empower parents, I think was my original plan. And I had loads of ideas for various different things. And then I turned it into more of a focus into supporting children and young people with APERT syndrome at a very social media web-based level, and wrote blogs as well. And then about 4 years ago, I was care manager, 2 years into care managing. Elijah has a massive, he's supported 2-to-1, 24/7. And I have a staff team of about 15 carers and nurses that support him on a day and night basis. But after 2 years of managing the staff team emotionally and getting too emotionally involved in their lives, I thought, you know what, I need a coach in my life. I can't keep becoming emotionally involved in their lives. I've got my own stuff, emotions and stresses and problems to deal with. So I got me a coach. Absolute amazing, and it's funny, I was talking to somebody yesterday, I said, I don't know why I thought a coach, but I just knew I needed somebody outside of my immediate situation who could help me become a better manager. So I got me a coach. And Tamsin still coaches me to this day, 4 years on. And it's just been a life changer in terms of, I don't manage from an emotional perspective anymore. I am much more assertive. I much more strategic in terms of how I think and how I manage, how I plan and organize. I do not get emotionally involved. Now, it sounds awful when I say this, but it's not awful. When I say I don't emotionally get involved in any of my workforce anymore, that's to protect me. That's not to say I don't care, because obviously I do care about them, but I just, I have this kind of this invisible shield that protects my art. And having a coach gives you the tools and strategy to see things from a different perspective. If something's requested from me, if one of my team requests something from me, instead of me going, oh yeah, you could do that, I now go, I need to think about that and I'll get back to you. Or I hear what you're saying, but I disagree with you. Or that your request doesn't kind of fit in with how this on today's shift. Or I think there's, I say when I go to networking meetings, everybody needs a coach in their life, regardless of who you are or what you do. I think, and so as a result of being coached, I wanted other carers to experience being coached. I think there's probably a lot of carers out there going, I don't need coaching, but we do, because we get stuck and we need to become unstuck. Our mindsets need to go from, yes, you might be going for a horrible situation. You might have a social worker that's not listening to you, or a healthcare professional who you're banging your head against a brick wall with. But it's about being able to communicate. For me, it's about being able to, regardless of how you're emotionally feeling, what can I do to solve this problem? How can I change the mindset? Or am I ever going to change the mindset of my doctor or my healthcare professionals? It's about, for me, it's about relationship. I phoned up my respiratory consultant yesterday and I said, I want Elijah to have a chest x-ray because I've known him for 12 years. He went, yeah, no problem. I gave them a bit of a rationale as to why he needed a chest x-ray. He had a chest x-ray. So coaching for carers. So Elijah's Hope, essentially a carers collective, sits under the organisation of Elijah's Hope. And the primary purpose of Carers Collective is to I organise and facilitate coaching groups for carers, primarily parent carers. Now, the reason why I say parent carers is because I'm a parent carer, and as a businesswoman, we need to know who our ideal client is or customer, and then our messaging needs to be talking to those those specific groups of people. So being that I am a parent carer, I kind of want to thought, well, let's communicate to other parent carers out there. And how we run them is we have six parent carers to a group. They run for 6 weeks. They're facilitated by a gorgeous therapist called Kerry Seymour, who takes them. They're about an hour, 1.5 hours in length. They are on Zoom, so geographically, and any parent carer. And when I say parent carers, I'm not. You know, if you're a carer out there and you're thinking, oh, I could do a bit of coaching, but I care for my mum or my uncle or my brother or my sister, we won't turn you away.
Oh my goodness, Kaddy. I mean, this conversation, well, I knew it was going to be amazing because you and I have had a one-to-one anyway. And as I said at the beginning, your story of you first and then what you've accomplished since you've become a mum and more is phenomenal, inspirational. And I'm certain that people who are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube will be thinking, I need to know more. I want to be in Kaddy's world. So make it really easy for them and tell us the best way that people can come and connect with you.
So we are on Facebook, Carers Collective on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We also have an Instagram account. So you can find us on Instagram. I think our Instagram handle is The Carers Collective, whereas on Facebook we are Carers Collective. We also have a website. I think it's Carers, it should go my own website off by heart, carers-collective.co.uk.
Amazing. So there are many ways, and I will make sure that in the episode description there are the links as well. So anybody wants to get in touch can easily get in touch. I'd like to say thank you, Kaddy, for taking the time to talk to us and share so openly and honestly your story of not just being a mum, but your story. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast episode. And if you did, then of course, please share it with other mums. I have lots more resources for you that will help you on your journey through life. Just visit my website to access them, which is mummyonabreak.co.uk. You can also find out details about my book, Busy. Take care and see you the next time.